Oh god, it's one of those players. Alright, Possibility Storm. A big thank you to White Rabbit for bringing this video to all of you via Patreon. Lathril Blade of the Elves versus Kydel Chosen of Kruphix, Chrome Ludvex Opus, Zergo Bellstriker, and Xanathar Guild Kingpin. Risky one to keep, but I like the Sylvan Library, so we will keep that. I can't see anyone blowing up a Llanowar Elves. And a Mana Crypt on turn 1 from the partner player. Partner players do tend to be pretty spiky in my experience, so we'll soon find out. That is an Explore, gets them to make another land. And they went for a blue source, went for Cycling, a Lonely Sandbar, and they end their turn with 5 cards in hand. Alright, getting into another land makes me feel better about this, so let's drop that one and we'll go for Bayou. And then we'll go for the Llanowar Elves, of course, and pass at that. Kydel Chosen of Kruphix coming down on turn 2 for the partner player. He did manage to make another land as well. And still 5 cards in hand over there. The other 2 players just dropping lands. Did not see the Zergo Bellstriker on turn 1. So now do we go for the Sylvan Library? Or do we go for Circle of Dreams Druid? Because then we would have 3 lands, 4, 5, 6 mana available to us, so that could be Guardian Project and Altar of Dementia maybe. Don't want to risk running Sylvan Library and Guardian Project out together if they're our only means of card draw for now. Yeah, let's shock in the Overgrown Tomb and we'll go for this new Mana Dork. Alright, that's surprising. A shock from the mono red player, so that goes on to our Dork. The Xanathar just goes straight through the turn. And now it's through to the mono red player's turn. They did that at the end of Xanathar's turn, of course. And that is a Ruby Medallion. Oath of Jace. I have actually just gone up against a Super Friends deck. I don't know if you'll have seen that by now or not, but yeah, not sure if this will be another one. Oath of Jace coming into play anyway. So they'll draw 3 and discard 2. And they discarded Spellbook, along with Jory N Ruin Diver. And now a Felwar Stone will help fix their mana. They are missing red at the moment, but they will get it with the Felwar Stone. And there we see the Chrome Ludvex Opus, so getting both their commanders down by turn 3, pretty impressive. Deciding against swinging in with that though, even though it has haste. Now, is everyone looking at us because we're an elf player? I assume if they had counter magic here, they would have countered the Chrome because there's a lot more mana going on there. We get into another land, so I'm going to try getting our commander into play. Xanathar was holding up priority, but deciding to allow the Lathril into play, so we can just pass at that and hope that there's no lightning bolts from the Zergo. Although if they're running Shock, I dare say they're running Lightning Bolt. Impulse from the Dimir player. It's not worthy that there are snow lands here, so not only does that help with ramping extra planar lands, but there is a snow lightning bolt if you've got 3 or more snow permanents, so 1 more land will give them another lightning bolt potentially, which is worth us playing around maybe. And there is a Rhystic Study from the Dimir player. And going for a morph straight into the Rhystic Study, not really worrying about that. And giving the Dimir player a card draw, bumping them back up to 7. I've never really played around morph cards, so I'm pretty ignorant with regards to the type of morph cards that we're likely to see here. There's the Red Achroma that we might have to worry about. Not sure what it does when it flips around though. Sword of Feast and Famine, and are they going to pay the tax on that? Nope, they are going to just feed the Rhystic Study player cards apparently. So hopefully we don't have a really good Xanathar list here, because they are just drawing into all the cards that they want apparently. A Sword of Fire and Ice as well, and deciding to feed another card there. They do have a Felwar Stone available, but maybe they want to equip a sword up here. I don't know if they've made a land or not. Oh, of course, they can tap down their commander for mana, can't they? So the Sword of Feast and Famine going on to the Chrome, that will be 6 commander damage. And it does go in towards the Dimir player, so at least discarding a card that they've drawn, but Yeah, it's still a loot in that regard, isn't it? They're still looking at new cards. And they've decided to discard a memory, so each player shuffles hand and graveyard into library and draws 7 for 6 mana, so that's something that we need to be wary of for the rest of the game. And then they untap their lands, of course, because they connected with the Sword of Feast and Famine, so now playing a Howling Mine. They've only got 2 cards left in hand, going pretty fast over there. And with the remaining mana, equipping the Sword of Fire and Ice onto the Chrome, so that now has Pro Black, Blue, Red and Green, Flying and Haste, and whenever an opponent casts a second spell, draw a card. Meanwhile, we are on our turn 4 and just limping our way up with mana, getting to another land, so Howling Mine will hopefully give us something different. Okay, Wirewood Pride might protect us against some burn, and I think it can just be Guardian Project this turn. We'll swing in the Lathril first of all, and I don't want to get hit by this player, so I'll make out like I'm focused on the Dimir player as well. Yeah, I don't want to make an enemy of this player here, so I will send Lathril in towards the Xanathar. Managing to connect, of course, so we do make some Elf Warriors. We'll go for Guardian Project, I think, for mana efficiency, and I'll hold up Wirewood Pride to protect ourselves from some burn. And seeing as how no one else is going to pay into the Rhystic Study, I don't think we're going to either. Not a whole lot of point in us going even further behind in order to pay the tax. Made sure to tap down the Llanowar Elves as well, because if someone goes for a board wipe or something, we'll still be able to hold up mana for the Wirewood Pride. Say there's a damage-based board wipe or something and we still want to go for that. Plus there's the Howling Mine that is giving the Dimir player cards as well. And unfortunately the Xanathar is just going to hold up 4 mana and pass the turn, so it might be yet another thing to worry about. They did have to discard down to hand size at least, so now we have a turn aside here. Misinformation. An island was discarded and Mnemonic Betrayal as well. Oh god, it's one of those players. Alright, Possibility Storm. I mean, at least it's a tribal list, so if we play an elf, we get an elf, but yeah, and continuing to not pay the mana into the Rhystic Study, so Possibility Storm is going to enter play here. I'm not sure what other instance we've got actually, it might be worth going for the Wirewood Pride. Maybe it'll turn into a Vamp Tutor or something. It might also be good to switch off the Dimir player as well. Yeah, because maybe they try and counter us and get into something other than a counter. So it's round to the 3 colour player's turn now, and they obviously draw another card with the Howling Mine. And now which way are they going to swing at their Chrome? Yep, still going in towards the Dimir player, so hopefully we are encouraging them away from us and in that direction. Going for something at instant speed here, they need to remember about the Possibility Storm. A Cyclonic Rift, attempting to go on the Possibility Storm, but that will shuffle that away into another instant. And they get themselves into a Brainstorm instead. So, oh, it counts as casting that as well, which is not good for the Rhystic Study, so they did pay for one of the Rhystic Studies before they see what they draw into with Brainstorm, curiously. But deciding to pay into this Rhystic Study as well, so leaving the Dimir player at 8 cards in hand. They will have to discard down to 7, thanks to the sword. I do wonder if we can get into an Assassin's Trophy maybe. Oh wow, another Cyclonic Rift. I'm actually happy to see the Possibility Storm now, because it's getting rid of 2 Cyclonic Rifts. How's about... We'll see what this Cyclonic Rift turns into. I might be able to go for Assassin's Trophy with the Wirewood Pride. Okay, a Resculpt can get rid of one of the swords here. I'm worried about the shock from the Sword of Fire and Ice, because I bet it'll go on one of our creatures. So an opponent has cast a second spell, which means they get to draw a card over here. Oh good, and the Resculpt is actually going on the Fire and Ice. That's really good, so maybe we don't go for the Wirewood Pride then. I thought definitely that they would have gone for the Feast and Famine, but nope, seeing the back of Sword of Fire and Ice for the rest of the game. Looks like they are going to connect with the Dimir player, so they will untap their lands here. They also gave them a 4/4 elemental with the resculpt, by the way. And they discarded Energy Field. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to you by sources you don't control. When a card is put into your graveyard from anywhere, sacrifice it. Never seen that card before. Okay, so aiming for a Sphinx's Tutelage, but obviously that will turn into any other enchantment in their deck. And instead turns into Rites of Flourishing, which means we'll get even more card draw. And still paying into the Rhystic Study, that's really good. And they paid into the other study as well. Now it is Staff of Nin, which, sod's law, it's going to turn into an even smaller artifact. And it does, it is a Temple Bell, so yeah, definitely some group hug stuff going on over here, plenty of it. So I don't know if there's all that much point in actually paying into the Rhystic Study now. They give them another card there. But yeah, if there's a bunch of group hug stuff that's going to go on, is there really much point in us keeping the Dimir player from having cards? They go for the Temple Bell, we'll all draw. And that is a Skemfar Shadow Sage. We always seem to draw into the expensive elves in this deck. Now, I don't think we have all that many instants in this deck. There's Heroic Intervention, Assassin's Trophy, Vampiric Tutor. I'd really hate to waste a Heroic Intervention, but we effectively don't have Heroic Intervention as long as this is in place, so yeah, I'll hold on to the Wirewood Pride, I think. If we went Vamp Tutor, we could go for a Mana Dork, draw into it, play it, and hopefully get a better elf for our troubles, but yeah, we'll see what we draw into here. Okay, Toxic Deluge. That is on the first draw. We get, okay, Quirion Ranger, so we could get into a really good elf off the back of a Quirion Ranger. And then it is a Twilight Mire, so we get to play both of these lands. We'll crack the Polluted Delta, and I'll just go for... let's just go for a basic. And then we'll see what elf we get with the Quirion Ranger. Okay, it's not an elf, but it is another creature. That is Toski, Bearer of Secrets. And the Chrome is going to trigger there because it does count as being cast, so we cast the Quirion Ranger, now casting the Toski. And like I said, with the whole group hug thing, I'm not going to bother with Rhystic Study. So Guardian Project will trigger on the Toski entering. Okay, and there's an Elvish Champion, which we have Yavimaya in the deck now, so we can actually make all of the lands in play forests, which is relevant with the Elvish Champion. But we're not likely to actually stick that, unfortunately. So how's about an Altar of Dementia? Might get into a Greaves. Okay, Trailblazer's Boots isn't awful, except against the red player. Oh, actually, there's no non-basics here either. Might as well cast it. And then let's see about drawing some cards this turn. We will swing in with 3 creatures and draw 3. I want to have as much mana as possible from Llanowar Elves. Should probably have held off on a land drop in case we get into Gaia's Cradle, but yeah, we'll go in like that at the red player. And we'll take the other 2 in towards the Dimir player, still trying to hold off the Temur player from swinging in at us. The Morph creature can't block because Lathril does have Menace. Okay, so Lathril will obviously trigger. That is still only 2 elves. But we will get 3 cards from the Toski, Bearer of Secrets. And yeah, what did I say about drawing into the expensive elves? So there's Elvish Dreadlord. I'd rather be drawing into the Dorks, obviously, and then chaosing into these. We do have Hunter's Insight as well, which is another instant that we could have got into with the Wirewood Pride. Yeah, how's about Concordant Crossroads, and we can try and get into some kind of an enchantment. Not sure what enchantment we can get actually, but let's go Concordant Crossroads. Okay, Prowess of the Fair is pretty good. Whenever a non-token elf you control dies, you can create an elf token. I think with the remaining mana, I'm going to put the Trailblazer's Boots onto Lathril. And then, yeah, we can just hold up the Wirewood Pride, try and get an Assassin's Trophy off with that. So the Rhystic Study doing a lot of work for only 3 mana here. They've got 15 cards in hand. Put those Trailblazers boots on the Lathril and we'll pass the turn at this. We'll have to discard a card. I'll get rid of the Hunter's Insight because, well, we're not exactly struggling for card draw, are we? And that was an Expel from something or other. That really flashed by really quickly. So I couldn't see what that was, but I'll put it up on the screen for all of you because I'll be able to go through frame by frame. It is a spy network that it turned into, and that will draw the Chrome player another card because they drew 2. So the Possibility Storm going really well with the Chrome. They're targeting the Chrome player, by the way, because they get to look at that player's hand and the top card of their library. Noteworthy that with Spy Network they could look at the Morph card, which is interesting. So even more card draw for the Dimir player. Luckily they don't have the mana to go with it, which is why I wasn't too worried about Rhystic Study. Obviously they can filter a lot of cards here. They go up to 17 in hand. And that is a Dimir Signet into Possibility Storm, which took them into another rock in Jet Medallion. Again triggering the Chrome. And once again just deciding to pass with 4 mana held up. And they've got their 14 cards in hand, so they'll have to discard down to 7. Alright, finally seen what this morph creature is. It is an Aya Shaman with Megamorph. When it's turned face up, exile the top card of your library and you can play it. And they have exiled themselves a Heartless Hadek Zugu. It deals damage to each player equal to half that player's life total, rounded down. Okay, instead of going for that, going for Lightning Strike, they were targeting the Kaidel. So plenty of single target burn in this deck. I'd be very intrigued to see how that works out for him in a multiplayer scenario. I suppose it'll work out pretty well in a game where you've got plenty of group hug going on. That'll actually keep you in cards. Instead took him into Chandra's Outrage. 4 damage to a target creature, 2 damage to that creature's controller. And yep, still going after the Kaidel with that. So it looks like Kaidel is going to go down. An opponent, of course, casting 2 spells again, so Chrome and the Rhystic Study will also trigger. And now they might go for some kind of burn onto Lathril as well. No, going for extra planar lens instead, which is what we mentioned previously. And instead get themselves a Warlord's Axe, which is +3/+1, equip 4. Yeah, I think that's a pretty terrible equipment actually. But they might have some free equip stuff going on for their Zergo. And the 3/2 with Menace just deciding to hold back. They are going to lose their Heartless Hidetsu there. So now it's over to the Teamer player's turn. They begin their turn with 9 cards in hand. And then drawing another one with Temple Bell, as will all of us. And we've now got 2 lands to make next turn. Thanks to the Rites of Flourishing, we'll be able to get both of those down. Noteworthy that they've got a Homeward Path as well. So we do have a blue player at the table that will likely want to take stuff away from his opponents. Another sword coming into play. This time it is the War and Peace, and that will be protection from red again, which the mono red player won't like to see. But thanks to the Possibility Storm, he's not going to have to see it. And it is Font of Mythos, more group hug. And I think he did pay for some Rhystic Study stuff at that point. Well, 10 cards in hand for the Dimir player either way. Now trying to get down a Gilded Lotus. And now the blue player going for something. That is Arcane Denial, which might turn into another counterspell. Nope, turns into Mystic Reflection, which is sort of a counterspell in some scenarios. I don't think it's relevant here though. Now once Mystic Reflection has resolved, I wonder... Okay, they'll come down as copies of the Llanowar Elves. I think we've got an instant that gets Elves into play, so that means that if we turn this into that spell, they'd come down as Llanowar Elves, which obviously means a lot more mana for us. I don't think it's worth trying to do that though. I think it's just worth leaving the Teamer player to it. I bet they're still worried about the Dimir player and still want to go in towards them. Might be that we can still do it at the end of the Teamer player's turn anyway, because they might not get another creature into play. Unless they've got an artifact creature. Nope, it is Thran Dynamo that the Gilded Lotus turns into. And they'll still be able to untap all of their lands. They do have Teamer colours available to them now, thanks to the basic mounting. Still going in towards the Dimir player, who will have to start worrying about commander damage over there. Okay, now attempting a Baleful Mastery, so forcing the Dimir player to tap out. And they'll get into another instant, which will be Depart the Realms. Return a target non-land permanent to its owner's hand, so we'll see what they go after there. Probably the sword, and they do, that's excellent. So these two battling it out is really giving us a lot of extra time here. I'm used to Elves getting hated on, and for good reason, but yeah, it's not to be this game, hopefully. They've still got to worry about commander damage because they'll be at 16 here. And if they go for the sword and equip again, which they might be able to get into through the Possibility Storm, we know they've got another artifact in the deck. Yeah, might be able to get another buff on their commander somehow and push through that commander damage. Now a Dreamstone Hedron. Plenty of artifact ramp in the Teamer deck, surprisingly. And continuing to get into more artifact ramp, that is Burnished Heart this time. Oh, but of course the Burnished Heart comes down as a copy of the Llanowar Elves. Yeah, forgot about that through all the combat and stuff, so maybe should have gone for our Wirewood of the Pride in response to the Burnished Heart, because it won't trigger. The Mystic Reflection won't be effective now. It only works on the first bunch of creatures. And that was enough for the Teamer player. I thought the Teamer player was still in a pretty good position there, but just deciding to scoop, unfortunately. And that means that it just passed through his entire turn and didn't give us a chance to go for this, annoyingly. I always say in the lobby that I don't want anyone to scoop early, but I mean, people just tend to do it anyway, unfortunately. We do miss out on all of the group hug card draw and stuff. And continuing to get into, well, not mana dorks, basically, which is what I'm hoping for at this point. Only get to play one of these lands as well. I really wish the Teamer player had stuck around for at least a turn, for selfish reasons. Let's go Cavern of Souls, obviously name Elf with that. And we'll see if we can get ourselves into a dork here. Gonna play the Reclamation Sage because I don't think I would mind chaosing into that at some point, either to get rid of the Possibility Storm or the Rhystic Study. Just hope that we don't get Jiraga Warcaller, because that isn't gonna buff us. Alright, Allosaurus Shepherd isn't terrible. If we end up in a 1v1 situation against the Dimir player, that will draw us a card as well, thanks to the Guardian Project. Getting to Priest of Titania, that's another one that I wouldn't mind getting into. We were pretty close. If we dodged the Allosaurus Shepherd, we could have drawn into, or had played out the Priest of Titania through the Chaos, but unfortunately not. So I think we'll see what cards we draw first, but I think I'm going to play the Priest of Titania. Maybe should do it before combat in case we get an Anthem effect. So we'll swing everything in towards the Dimir player. So once again, a couple of Elf tokens. And Toski is going to draw us a bunch of cards. I've just remembered actually, we've got an aura or two to buff our Lathril as well, which Sylvan Library could turn into. Alright, there's the Assassin's Trophy, so that isn't going to come out from Wirewood Pride now, unfortunately. Mana Crypt could turn into a relevant artifact, we might as well play that. So we'll go for the Mana Crypt because it's free, see what artifact we can get out of this. Turns into a Signet. Then I do want Priest of Titania in the library because I'd like to Chaos into it at some point potentially. So we'll go for that. I'd like a Lightning Greaves or Swiftfoot Boots as well, so maybe go for Throne of the God Pharaoh as well. Okay, a No-Made Shepherd, so that can actually get rid of the Chaos if we want it to. We can also get rid of the Rhystic Study, of course. But I think the Chaos isn't the worst thing for us at the moment, because like I said, this is an Elf deck, we're always going to get into Elves. Draw a card with Guardian Project. And of course we get into the Swiftfoot Boots there. So there's every chance we could still get into Heroic Intervention from Wirewood Pride. We've less chance of getting into Greaves now. Maybe we just play Swiftfoot Boots and hope that we get into Greaves, or I don't think we're going to get into the Swiftfoot Boots again, but might as well play that, shuffle it. Okay, and there's a Skull Clamp. That is well, not really something we need. Usually it would be a really good draw, but like I said, not something that we need. So in that case, I think we'll just hold up the Assassin's Trophy as opposed to the Wirewood Pride, because I would like to shuffle this back into the library as well. We'll probably get Heroic Intervention from that. Let's just pass here. And I think we best discard some Elves that we don't mind reanimating later, because we could Chaos into some reanimation. The reanimation stuff is sorcery, so we best keep hold of the Toxic Deluge. Let's get rid of these things. Holding on to as many low CMC things as I can here, really. We've got one of each permanent type as well, near enough. The Dimir player goes for Portent, and that goes into return an instant or sorcery from graveyard to hand, deciding to return the Depart the Realm, which, yeah, the Foretell doesn't get around that, does it, because they still cast it. So not likely to see that, but going for that into hand anyway. Now a Codex Shredder, nice low CMC artifact. Oh, and that's a Torpor Orb. Yeah, I don't think... we might not necessarily care about that, but that is definitely something to try not to forget about. It'll switch off things like Reclamation Sage. We can blow it up still with the Null Mage Shepherd if we're worried. And then going for the Depart the Realm, and trying to bounce the Toski. I mean, I'm fine with them worrying about Toski, to be honest. War of Invention and Expel, that won't do anything for them unless they've got a 0 mana artifact that they can tutor up. Might have a Mana Crypt. Well, apparently not. Didn't grab anything with the War of Invention. And there is a Damnation, so luckily not going to have our board wiped here. Instead it is Scheming Symmetry, so we've been swinging in at the Dimir player. I dare say they will choose the mono red player. Doesn't really matter what anyone tutors for with a Possibility Storm in play though. And luckily for us, it's not likely a Dimir player is going to get rid of it. No, surprisingly. Letting us tutor for something. Alright, so if I was taking this game really seriously and I didn't care about leaving my opponents waiting, I could check the number of card types that I've got in any given card type. But I don't think I'm going to bother with that. We've got Demonic Tutor... Could go in for Kindred Dominance, could go in for Haunting Voyage, which won't be foretold, unfortunately. So that won't necessarily be as good as we'd like. I think I'm just going to go for a Dork here, so that we can try and get into a really good creature of some kind. Yeah, let's just go for the Elvish Mystic there. We've got the Patriarch's Bidding as well, which would be a better reanimation spell in this instance. I think the Haunting Voyage only gets a couple of creatures, which would still be alright, I think. Orcish Spy is a creature. Look at the top 3 cards of a player's library. Obviously it's not going to be an Orcish Spy though. The red player plays the Orcish Spy, and that turns into Orcish Captain, so I'm only just noticing maybe this is Orc Tribal then. But the Orc Captain is 1, flip a coin. If you win, target Orc creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn. If you lose, it gets -2 to its toughness. And then hard casting a Thran Dynamo, I think that's the second one that we've seen in this game. Turns into Solemn Simulacrum. So it doesn't seem as though they've got an actual tactic with the Possibility Storm. It just seems as though they're just playing it because they're not getting a whole lot of use out of their own enchantment there, I don't think. I think we're looking pretty good here. So at the end of the turn, let's activate the Null Mage Shepherd. I'm going to get rid of Torpor Orb now, just in case. I can't think of anything that we're worried about Torpor Orb with, but just in case, we will get rid of that. I don't have to go for the Wirewood Pride now. I don't want to waste Heroic Intervention, but there's every chance we'll just draw into Heroic Intervention, so yeah, I think I'll just leave it so that I don't mess anything up. I'll try not to mess anything up anyway. Oh, and the... yeah, that's Magic Online for you. I'd just like to say that this player was actually calling the Teamer player for scooping early. And... yeah, now they've just decided to scoop early themselves. I mean, I've said it 100 times. We're against Magic Online randoms. This is what they do for some reason. but they might have just screwed over the Dimir player, who has been very patient this game because they have been getting swung in at a lot. Yeah, ultimately all we have to do here is go for the overrun effect, and yeah, they just decided to scoop there. All we were going to do is go for the Allosaurus Shepherd. All our elf creatures turn into 5/5s, and we turn in sideways and hit them. So yeah, I think the mid-game there, playing around the chaos stuff, was pretty fun for us and pretty fun for you, the viewers, hopefully. But yeah, that's a real shame that players have just decided to scoop there. Big props to the Dimir player for playing it out to the end, even though things were looking pretty poor for them. The chaos turned off their control stuff and countering and that, so ultimately, as many cards as they drew, they didn't really get to play, but stuck it out to the end anyway. So a big thank you to them for playing it out. Hopefully you all enjoyed it anyway. I've been trying really hard to get a decent Lathril game, and this is the best I've got, so hopefully you all enjoyed it. Be sure to leave it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. You can check out Patreon as well via the link in the description below if you'd like to support the channel. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.